Hey guys, it's Kirby the Bookish Nurse. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go over my quarterly reading wrap up. So this quarter was kind of different for me. There was 1 month that I was in school that I just didn't read. I think I read like 1 or 2 books that entire month. Overall, I think I have 17. I really should have counted before I started this, but I have 17 or 18. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on any of them unless they were like super impactful. But some of these I read in January and it's now almost May. So we'll see. The first book that I read this year was Ghosts of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare. This book was one of her short story books and it's very thick. I think that it was like, I don't know, I felt like it was 1,000 pages, but I think it was something like 700 pages. It follows Jim Carstairs, or Brother Zachariah, as he goes through the centuries in the shadow market. I thought it was really interesting. I loved being in the shadow market. That's where all of the like downworlders go. That's like the black market for the shadow world. And Nephilim. Do y'all have problems pronouncing things that you see in books? Because I feel like I never like actually pronounce anything correctly. Anyway, in this book, Nephilim doesn't, I think it's not allowed for them to go to the shadow market because that's like the bad place. That's where all the bad things happen. Nobody wants the good kids to go to the black market except for Brother Zachariah. Like, he's just chilling. He loved a warlock girl. He's going and checking on people and protecting people and doing what the brothers do. I really enjoyed this short story collection. If you're not a character-driven reader, you probably, even if you like her other books, you probably are not going to like this one because nothing really happened. It's just stories that he's collected over the years. The second book that I read was the final book in the Simon Snow series. It was called Anyway the Wind Blows. I'm not sure why I even completed this trilogy. It I don't even remember hardly anything about it. I remember the first one. The first book in the trilogy was pretty good. It was interesting. The rest of them were just kind of like, okay, I keep picking these up, so there must be a reason. I just don't know what it is. Because it's really not that great. It's not really that fun. The romance kind of sucks. Like, character work isn't great. I don't know. I think that I rated it like 2.5 stars. I mean, it wasn't bad. I wasn't like actively hate reading it. It was just okay. Like, I don't. So, yeah. That was Anyway the Wind Blows. Sorry for the really crappy description, but I mean, I remember very little about it. And if I don't remember anything about it, and it was only 3 months ago, probably not that great. The next book I read was Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. This book was sold to me as a Jane Eyre retelling. Anyone who knows me knows I love me some Jane Eyre. This was not that. I mean, it was still a good book. I really enjoyed it, but it was not a Jane Eyre retelling. The only similarities between this and Jane Eyre was that she used the name Rochester sparingly. That was it. And he was like the master of the house or whatever. It wasn't. It wasn't. So we have Andromeda, I think was her name. She is, I forget what they call them, but it's a person that has like a supernatural connection that enables her to do exorcisms on like people, places, things. I don't remember what happened, but something happened and she couldn't complete her training as an exorcist. Mr. Rochester's house has already hired several of these, whatever they call them, to cleanse his house because there's some type of evil entity in his house. And all of them have either failed or died or whatever the case was. So they decided they needed someone who was unlicensed, who basically no one would miss. Enter Andromeda. So she comes in and she knows it's kind of shady. That's why they hired somebody that didn't have a license. But she did study under the best there is. So, for the time that she studied. So she comes in and she gets to trying to do her thing. A bunch of super creepy things happen. The environment in this book, I'm really surprised that this is the author's debut novel, because the atmosphere in this book was so creepy. Like, I remember I was reading it and, like, I couldn't read it at night. I read it, I normally read before I go to bed, and I couldn't. Like, I had to stop and only read it during daytime hours, because I'd be reading and I'd hear, like, part of the house settle, and I was like, oh, well, that's it for that, because I don't need the evil eye coming after me. It was really good, and I really liked the way that it tied up in the ending, too. A lot of times whenever I read debut novels, authors have trouble, like, putting together their ending, and she did not. So I would definitely be interested in reading more from that author. The next book that I read, this series is probably my favorite series that I have started and finished in a very, very long time. It's a middle grade, right now, trilogy, but I think the next one comes out in October, by Jessica Townsend, called Nevermore. The one I read this year was the third one. It's called Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow. I mean, obviously, I can't really tell you what happens in the third one without spoiling the first and second. But in the first one, we have a little girl. She's, I think, 11 or 12. And on her birthday, she's supposed to die. That's like part of the curse that she supposedly has. So on her 11th birthday, she wakes up and she knows, like, today is the day she's gonna die. Instead, she meets this man, Jupiter, and he kind of offers her this, like, wondrous life, that if you come with me, I can give you a job and you'll work for this company that I work for, and it will change your entire life and all of the wonderful things. You don't really have a curse. You have a blessing, and these people just don't understand it. So she's like, yeah, I would much rather do that than die. So let's roll. I mean, it goes down a little different than that, but so she goes, and she goes to the school for the wondrous arts, I think is what they call it. I can never remember exact titles of anything. Y'all, please excuse me. But the vibes in this book are immaculate. I know it's middle grade, and I know a lot of the people that I talk to on here don't do middle grade, but if you ever want to give it a give any middle grade a chance, this is the one. HP is out the door. Nevermore is the new thing. This story, I feel like they could make into a movie, and it would be the new Harry Potter. Like, nobody would even care about Harry Potter anymore, because it's simple enough that, yes, it can be middle grade, but the characters are intricate and complicated enough to keep adults watching and keep them interested, or reading if it never gets made into anything. And the themes that it tackles, once again, are simple enough that a middle grade or younger, maybe not younger, but a middle grade audience can understand them, and also an adult audience can enjoy them and laugh at things that happen. This was whimsical and fantastical, and it was done so well, and I felt like I could see the things she was describing. I could feel them, I could taste them. I felt it whenever she got hurt. Like, this story, I could go on for days telling you how much I loved this story. And Jessica Townsend, I think this is the only thing she's ever written, or this is the only thing she's ever published, rather. And it's probably going to be my favorite story of the year. The next two books that I read, I almost don't even want to tell y'all. The next two books that I read, okay, just understand, I don't read, I will read romance if there is an actual romance involved and not just I was convinced to pick up the Planet Barbarians. I know, for someone who gets all like, for like sexy times in books, I get weird about it. Like, it's not my favorite thing. I picked up Planet Barbarians. And I read the first two. And actually, the first one wasn't that bad. I mean, yes, it was very much erotica. This was not romance. Let me clarify. This is not romance. This is erotica. Enough said. But I know a lot of people who have picked it up and were like, yes, this is the best stupid book I've ever read. So I picked it up. Okay. The second book sucked. It was just non-stop. Now, I did like the dude in the second book, but that was all. The storyline was terrible. There wasn't a storyline. There was a dude with a body part, and that was the entire book. But the first book was a girl, Georgie, that she got abducted by aliens. And it was super gruesome at first because it was like the girls were on this, well, it turns out it was on a ship. There was, I don't remember how many girls, like 12 or something. And they were all in cages on this spaceship, and they got fed several times a day, but the food was terrible because I don't think the aliens understood what they were supposed to eat. So they just kind of gave them mush. It was pretty horrific on the ship. Like, they didn't have bathrooms. There was a very explicit, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but there was a very explicit rape scene in the very beginning, and that was like alien forced sex. That's weird. I don't know why people love this, but I kept reading, and it actually turned into like a really sweet thing, even though it was an alien, and it's weird, and I feel weird about it. But I read the first two, and the guy, the alien man that she happened across, thank God it was him that they happened across, because if it wasn't, that would have been bad. But he's very like, must protect the lady and must feed the lady, but they speak different languages because he speaks alien language and she speaks human language. I'm assuming English. The book's written in English. And so the whole time they're like trying to mime things to each other, and neither one of them fully understand it. He just assumes that she wants to mate because that's what they do. That's what he wants to do. And it's super awkward, and it was cute. The second one picks up where the first one left off, and it was just like the whole book. I didn't like the second one because it was just like, I'm this mean, surly girl, and he's this very sweet, damaged alien man, but he's so beautiful, but actually he's not, but he is, and now we're on this planet, so we got to make the best of it. I don't want to bang him, but I'm gonna bang him, but I don't want to bang him, but look at his body. And it was not good. I probably will not be continuing with that series. A lot of people that I know, that I speak to, love it. If you're into weird erotica, give it a shot. It's not that bad. I don't like sexy times to be overbearing in my books. I reread The Iron Trial by Cassandra, Clare, and Holly Black. We have Cullum. He's our main character. His dad, his whole life, tells him that magic is terrible and it's a curse and you don't want to have it, and don't worry about it because you're not going to have it, even though both of his parents had it. But on his birthday, I think that was also 11 or 12. He may have been 12. Um, he's required to take him for these trials. So he goes to the trials. He accidentally gets into the magic school. His dad freaks out. He goes, and adventure ensues. It's fine. I think that I would probably really love it if I was like 12, or if I had not read anyone who had done it better, like JK and Jessica. So then I picked up a quick manga. I picked up the first volume of My Hero Academia. This was super cute, and I'm probably going to continue with that series at least for a while. This is in this world. I think it's our world, but in their version of it, everyone is born with quirks, and quirks turn into your superpower. There's also a show that goes along with it that I have not seen, but I think I think I might actually like the show better than the manga if I were to watch it. So I'm gonna try to watch that, and then I'll probably do a whole thing on that because it was such a cute concept. Then I read a trilogy. So there were 3 books: A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Good Girl, Bad Blood, and As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, I think. Yeah, by Holly Jackson. So I really got into this trilogy. I loved it. I read it as a group read with my book club, and I think all of us loved it. At least the first one. I think we all loved at least the first one. This is about a girl who she's doing like a thesis paper type thing for her high school about a murder that happened in her town several years ago. And so the first one it opens up with her interviewing people about this murder that happened several years ago. Because she doesn't think that the person who they blamed it on, she doesn't think that they did it. But she doesn't have any like suspects yet in the beginning. It really picks up whenever she goes to talk to whatever the guy's name was. He's the little brother of the guy who everybody claims committed the murder. And that guy is also dead. They say that he murdered his girlfriend and then killed himself. And you find all that out super early in the book, so that's not giving anything away. But she goes to speak to his little brother. His little brother is kind of an outcast because his brother was accused of murder in a small town. His whole family's kind of an outcast. She ends up clicking up with him and trying to solve this murder. And she solves it. She solves it, but it's not what she was expecting. And then each twist and turn leads to a whole nother mystery that it's like, what will it, but if they did that, then what happened to this? And why did they do this if they did that? And it's very twisty and turny, and it kept me hooked the entire time. It's kind of mixed media. There's some podcast elements thrown in, and that made it really interesting. And a lot of the girls in my book group that did finish the whole trilogy didn't care for the last one because they said they didn't feel like. Oh, and also Mora from Books Like Woe. I watched her talk about the finale. I don't know, a couple weeks ago maybe, or a week ago. I don't know. At some point I watched her talk about it, and she says she didn't like the way that the third one did because they felt like Pip ended up doing things that her character wouldn't have done. But I feel like she may have, like, after all the things that she goes through in the first and second books, like, that's going to change who your character is. Like, even if you're a real life person, if you go through the things that she went through and you're afraid and you know that the police are not going to believe you because police don't believe kids about things. They just kind of say, oh, okay, that's cute. You're doing an investigation. Okay. I mean, it changes you, especially if you're scared. Being scared changes what you would do. Even if you are a completely rational, logical human, if you get scared, logic doesn't exist if you're actually scared. Not like, oh God, it's a spider, but like actually fearful for your life. It changes what you do. So I don't think it was that far-fetched that she did what she did and how she coped with it. It appears that most people feel differently, but that's how I felt about it. I thought that I don't think it was that far of a stretch. Now, there were parts of this book that pissed me off. I was so angry. I was just texting my friends, talking about my friends that were also reading it, and I was just like, can you believe this blank and blank blank? Like, it was bad. That was bad text messages. I was very heavily involved in this investigation. And if you like murder mysteries or like true crime podcasts at all, ever in your life, read that book because it was so much fun. I don't know if it was really that spectacularly written of a book. It was just so much fun. Then I read The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in one of her like spin-off series about Alec and Magnus. I was super hyped and really excited to finally get to this book because I love Magnus, and upon reread, I love Alec. So, I mean, you don't have to do much to make me love this book. They're great, and I'll follow them on a picnic for 300 pages. It wouldn't have taken much. I did not like this book at all. Nothing happened. Like, it didn't even have like a bunch of cute character, like couple moments. It just, nothing happened. I don't even think they were together for a lot of it. The premise is Magnus is like, I don't know, 700 or 1500. He's very old, okay, because he's immortal. I think he's like 1500 years old. I don't know. I might be completely making that up. But he's very old compared to Alec, who's like 22 or something. At some point in Magnus's past, of course, he has struggled with mental things because he's immortal. It would be weird if he had never went through hard times. So in his past, at some point, him and his friends allegedly decided that it would be funny if he started a cult. And the whole book is like Magnus or Alec trying to prove that Magnus would never do that. No, Magnus would never start a demon worshipping cult. Magnus is the son of a greater demon, technically. I mean, that's why he's a warlock. But I didn't care for this. Nothing happened. We didn't learn anything of importance about any of the characters. Nothing super adventurous happened. I was bored the entire time I read that book. There was maybe like 3 scenes that I said, oh, and that was it. But, I mean, if you're a huge Cassandra Clare fan and you just really want to get caught up on all of her books, then yeah, read it. Because the completionist in you will not be happy until you do. But if you're just like, oh, I love Alec and Magnus, it doesn't matter. That one wasn't good. I'll read the next one because I'm a completionist, and I'll let y'all know if it gets better. But that first one, it sucked. Then I read a book that I had never heard of called The Novice by Taryn Matheru. I'll put it up here. I might be saying that wrong. I'm sorry. It was fun. It kind of had like a Pokemon meets Harry Potter vibe. In this world, people have little monsters that they call them demons, but I have no idea why, because they're not from like a demonic realm or anything. And maybe they pronounce it different and it's not actually demons. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. And that would completely change the meaning. But it's like, you start out with a little baby. It's just exactly like Pokemon. You start out with this little baby monster and you train it and raise it and fight them, and different people start out with different monsters that have different abilities, and you train them up. And you're at a magic school while you do so. It was fun. It wasn't like, this is groundbreaking, but it was like, oh, okay, that's cute. This is fairly well written. It's fine. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, maybe. But if you're a big Pokemon fan, like if you're a 90s kid and you grew up playing the Game Boy games, and you'll probably have fun with it just because that's all it is. Then I read an adult contemporary romance called You Deserve Each Other. I thought this was a super cute little book. It's by Sarah Hogle. I've never read anything from her before, but I'm sure I will after that one. This is about two people that are engaged, and the woman, it's strictly from the girl's point of view. We don't get anything from the guy's point of view. But kinda. But I did feel kind of misled by the premise, but I can't tell you why without giving away the big, oh my goodness, without giving that away. I can't really tell you why I felt misled. But anyway, the woman starts to feel like the guy doesn't want to be with her anymore. She starts to feel like he's doing things specifically to like make her leave or make her want to leave. So she starts doing things specifically to make him want to leave because she doesn't want to be like outdone. And I was expecting this to be more of like a prank wars situation. It wasn't really. Kind of was. It kind of was. But not to the extent that I was expecting. But it was still really funny and really cute. I think at one point they did have, at a certain point, they began to have really good chemistry and they began to feed off each other really well. The guy's parents are involved, and they are kind of like, if you've ever seen Gilmore Girls, Lorelai's mom and dad, that's who I envisioned for the parents. Very just like, Tata, no, we don't do that, blah, blah, blah. That's what I like. They eat pate for lunch. That's who I envisioned for the parents. And it was a really cool dynamic. He's a dentist, I think. So yeah, it was super fun. I think I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't perfect, but it was super cute, and I really liked it, the prankiness of it. And then the last thing I read was Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I was like halfway through Six of Crows and almost put it down. I'm pointing at it, that's why. I'm not just like, but I almost put it down like halfway through because I said, man, I know this is everyone's favorite on every platform ever, but this is boring. And the girls in my book club, I was talking to them, and they said, well, I mean, if you really hate it, then don't finish it. But because I didn't like the original Grisha trilogy, and I did not like that. But I picked this one up hoping that it would be better because I'm told that it's much darker and much more mature. And okay, cool, I pick it up. And the plot, there is a plot. I mean, it's a heist story. There's a plot. But that really took the back seat to who these characters are. Around the midway's point, I absolutely fell in love. I love Casper. I want to read so many more books only about Casper. I was really surprised with this being a YA book that it went as dark as it did in certain places. Like there was one point, I don't guess this isn't really a spoiler because I mean, you know that these are like the bad people from the slums, and Kaz is like the ringleader. Okay, so we have different gangs from different boroughs. There was one point where, this is how dark it gets, where Kaz was trying to like I guess psych someone out or scare someone, and in order to get his way, he was just basically like, look, you can do what you're gonna do, but I need you to know that here's your child's toy. I have them buried alive at such and such coordinates. So you can do what you're going to do here, or you can go save your toddler. And he was like going into detail about the act of burying this kid alive. I mean, I'm not going to tell you who or what or why or if or anything, but it was like, it got so, like, I know he's the main character and I love him, but I was going, but Kaz, that is a baby. You can't do that to babies. Like, it got very dark. And what it made me think of was from the originals. Klaus Michelson. I feel like if Klaus Michelson was not immortal, he would be Casper. I feel like they were the same character, and I think that's why I loved them so much, or I loved him so much, because I love me some Klaus. He could burn an entire village down, and I'm like, but I'm sure he had a reason. I'm sure he did. We'll ask him later. Like, he has this crew of people that would just follow him to the end of the earth. The second book in this series, Crooked Kingdom, is a little bit more political than the first one, I felt like, but you also got into it a lot faster because you already knew the crew. You already had attachments with the crew, and you already wanted to know what was going to happen and why they feel this way and all these, like, it was a lot easier to get into for me. I think that I gave Six of Crows 4 stars just because it did take me a while to get into it. And I think I gave Crooked Kingdom 5 stars. I'm almost positive I gave Crooked Kingdom 5 stars because I was in love from the first page to the last. I laughed. I cried. I was nervous. I think I stayed up and finished it in like a day and a half. It was phenomenal, and it deserves all of the praise that it gets on all of the platforms. I'm sorry for anybody that I talk trash about for loving this book the way that y'all do. And that's everything that I've read in the first quarter of the year. I think that this is how I'm going to do my wrap-ups from now on. I know it's a little bit longer, but it's just, I'm going to have to figure out how to take notes better so that I can remember books better. Because a lot of times if it's a 3-star, I'm just like, oh, okay, that's fine. Put it to the side. And I don't really think about it again. Which, I mean, maybe that's just the natural progression. I don't know. I'm going to have to come up with some type of system so that I can review books better without giving spoilers. I'm not really sure how to do that either. Do y'all want spoilers in book reviews? Like, if I mark them spoilers ahead or anything like that? I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out what you guys want to see or hear and go from there, I guess. Anyways, I guess I will see y'all again in another 3 months with another quarterly wrap up. If I have anything that's just crazy, rant worthy, or gush worthy, I will let y'all know in between. But as far as a big wrap up, I'll be doing that again in 3 months. So let me know if y'all have read any of these books and what y'all think about them. And based off of my opinion of them, if y'all have any recommendations for me, go ahead and list those in the box below. As always, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all soon with a new video. Bye.